Hello, I'm Jeremy Ford and I'm going to show you how to paint an autumn landscape using chalk pastels. First thing is to draw a line for the horizon, roughly where the sky meets the land. And then using a mid-blue, like a cobalt blue, sideways on, I've broken this pastel in half so it's a nice manageable size. Using the pastel on its side, imagining where the sky is and leaving the white of the paper initially for the clouds. And smaller clouds further away, so leaving smaller gaps in between the blue. I'm going to change blues and have a lighter blue. And now using the end of the pastel for these thin, narrow strips of cloud. Overlaying some of the blue with the first blue, perhaps a little bit more pastel in the middle here. Press a bit harder. And now I'll use my finger to work that pastel into the paper. The paper is called pastel mat, and it's a super soft paper, but it has a good tooth, and you can build up layer upon layer of colours on this pastel mat paper. It smudges a little bit, not as much as some other papers, but just enough for me to soften the edges and work the colours into one another. Now underneath these clouds we need some shadow under them, so I'll work in some greys. Again, just to begin with, not worrying about any great detail or anything, but nothing too fussy to start with. Then a darker grey underneath that. And this is a sort of an off-white creamy colour, which will just give the clouds a little bit of warmth and white. Maybe a few smaller wispy clouds on top of the blue as well. And then soften those a bit with the finger and just work these colours in to one another so it goes gradually from light to dark. This can take a fair amount of time, so you do need a bit of patience for this. If any of the clouds get too big, then we can put some more sky into them, break them up a little bit. If they get a bit too chunky, a few little bits of blue showing through the clouds here and there. So you can put light on top of dark and dark on top of light, and the pastel mat paper grips the pastel really well, so you can build up multiple layers of pastel quite effectively. Well, I think we can go a little bit darker on some of these clouds now. So a deeper grey here and there. I think one of the hard things about doing clouds is not to try and make them look too neat and precise. But it helps if you've got reference, you know, if you've got photographs of clouds, or you can do sketches of cloud formations, because it's quite difficult sometimes to make things up. And I think some of these lower clouds just want breaking up a little bit, so chop some of them up. Back to some light colours, creamy colours. So this is quite a blustery day. These clouds are casting shadows across the moorland. This is a picture of North Yorkshire. Although there won't be any trees in this picture, the autumn feel of it will be conveyed by the use of autumnal colours on the moorland. Right, if I need to, I can come back to those clouds later on. Right, now a violet greyish blue misty background underneath that sky, the distant hills. So I put a little bit of violet down and I'm overlaying it with some grey and a hint of blue. And then work those in together. And just above those hills, I'm going to just redefine the sky to make the hills stand out a little bit. So using the blue and the white, this should make the hills stand out a little bit better. Now we'll change colour now and go on to these autumnal browns, oranges, rusty colours. And I'm going to build up layers of greys and browns and blend some of the colours into one another, and there'll be lots of bands or strips of colour to help us get a sense of distance amongst one another. Some of these clouds will be casting a shadow over the moors. And a deeper reddish brown. Very subdued greens, not bright greens at all. And then a nice dark brown as well. And now I'll work those colours in with my finger. Clean the hands. I'm going to go on to some lighter colours now, so we want to keep the light colours clean. Patches of sunlight catching some of the grass and the heather. Gently soften those. Darker grey here for the shadows from the clouds. Break it all up a little bit. Soften a little bit. And very dark brown. And even some black, which really makes it dramatic. Little bits of subdued green. A few orange highlights here as well. Just little bright bits. And even lighter bits in the distance. That's probably just needs a little bit of white. Just the suggestion of a wall in the distance there. And I just want to finish off by adding a few highlights to some of these clouds. A few little bits of bright sunlight using the white. And I reckon that's finished. So I started by drawing the horizon, separating the sky from the land, indicated the clouds by drawing with the blue pastels around where the clouds were going to go, then working in the greys to shape the clouds, working down to the horizon, smaller clouds further away, larger clouds at the top of the picture, and then the distance, the greys into the foreground, drawing bands of colour, light against dark, dark against light, for added impact. And I finished off by adding a few highlights to the clouds.